For me, I am in the health and wellness industry. And what I do is I help men and women, a lot of military, because a lot of military, especially the women, used to come to my classes because they had knee problems from running in boots. Okay. Put that out there. But I help the men and women to reduce their knee pain so they can avoid the surgery and the drugs and the shots.
Hey, welcome to the Leadership Development Podcast. I'm Jason McClaren with my guest today, Renee Moten. Renee, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Jason. I really was looking forward to this talk today.
Definitely. So we were talking before we started recording. Um, but yeah, Renee has a very interesting background, and then we're going to talk about what she was doing and then what she's doing now with her coaching. She's doing some very unique coaching, and we'll talk about that. But Renee, tell us about your background. What led you to where you're at today?
Oh, well, thank you so much for asking. Well, I think the one thing about me is I've always been in fitness, even in kindergarten, I'm coming up through grade school. Somewhere along the line, I fell in love with personal training. So I met my actual personal trainer in 1992. And I said, okay, this is something I want to do for the rest of my life. So I became a personal trainer around about 5 years after working with my personal trainer. And it was just a joy to learn about all the different types of exercises. But inside of that time, I also had started to have knee problems. And once you start having knee problems and you do certain type of exercise, it just made it worse. And so as I went on my journey to really learn more about how to get myself out of knee problems, my other knees started to hurt. So now you have a personal trainer with two knees that hurt, and you wonder how am the heck am I going to make a living and also to actually get myself out of pain. So those early days when I was trying to figure this thing out was really tough, really tough. The, I did learn some new techniques around about 2000, the year 2000. I started to learn about how to get myself out of pain. And from that point on, I did so much research into how to get people out of knee pain that I am an expert and a specialist at how to do it without the drugs, without the surgery, and without the shots. And I just totally enjoy it.
Yeah, I think a lot of our listeners are veterans and first responders, so we obviously get pains. I know myself, I'm a partially disabled veteran. I don't have knee pain, but I do have back and neck and some other pains. But they always joke, veterans and first responders, we're just always hurting ourselves on the job. And so I think this was a very resonant topic that we were talking about. So now you're doing knee pain coaching, correct?
Yes. Basically, what it started with when COVID hit, I was just basically just personal trainer. I didn't get too much into the knee coaching with knee pain at the time. So I had all these clients. I'm going to their houses and I'm just having a wonderful time. They were all referral clients, so it was even better. And then all of a sudden COVID hit and they're like one of these things, don't come over my house anymore. And so I started to divert my attention more to helping people out with their knee challenges. And that's when it would start to be really rewarding and really for real, because once I could take each person through my techniques, which I started to learn, I started to say, wow, I can really actually help people online. And one thing well, what you were just talking about, Jason, about the military, one thing about knee problems, you never have just knee problems. You have the back problem, you always will have a hip problem, and sometimes it goes all the way up into the shoulders. And so what I had to learn was I just could not coach people on their knees. With my 25 years of experience as personal trainer, I was able to work on their knees and their hips and their back and their shoulders. And I was literally able to get people out of pain forever. Not that we getting in and out of pain, but just coaching them online. I have found that it was such a joy. And plus, with COVID, I have clients all over the world, which was fantastic. So I know no matter where I need to go at, I can always call somebody and say, how was that particular country? So it's been quite fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we started this podcast, Go Heroes. We started in 2013 and we kind of pivoted early or late 2019. And of course, COVID started and we were like, man, we need a way to help people still. So we started the podcast and now we've been doing it almost 5 years. We had a little hiatus there for a while. But yeah, it's like you said, it's a lot easier virtually. I know some podcasts, they only do in person, like you have to go to the studio. But that kind of limits your bandwidth on who you can help. And so I think taking it virtual, especially what you're doing, really helps because you can, like you said, you pretty much have the world as your client list and you can go out and help them. So what has been some of the the challenges you've faced as you're growing this company, and what are some of the things that people have told you that maybe you've tweaked things as you've gone along, and how's it working for you now?
I was very successful as a personal trainer. You go to people's houses, you can put your hands on them and you can work with them. And I had hired a coach and she said, you need to go online. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that because I didn't know if I could take my personality and all my skills online. But the challenges that you have with online is you cannot teach them everything. You cannot teach all of these exercises that people are doing. You have to be very specific about what types of exercises you can give someone and when you're online, because you have to be sure you're going to keep them safe. And from putting programs together, I was then able to start classes. So now when you have a class of everybody in my class either have meniscus tears, bone on bone, osteoarthritis, they have back problems, they have hip problems, but I'm still able to work with those particular groups of people and keep them safe. And that was the thing that we had to learn, was how to do it efficiently, effectively, and safely so they can get themselves out of pain, so I'd get their lives back, and to be sure that they take these skills, Jason, I mean, literally take the skills for a lifetime. And that's what I'm giving my class. And that's been fantastic to see them go on vacations and grow and really just get their lives back and they get their independence back. And that's what I'm all about.
Yeah, definitely. I think I work in healthcare full time, and I've dealt with different departments that have that kind of inpatient rehab or outpatient rehab, and they're doing the same thing, trying to help the patients get ahead and get out of their grind. Another thing you said was the Luis will fix all this, right?
I think the thing that when you do come from, especially if you have all the people that you're working with that are injured, they've all had some type of injury, you have to know what you're doing. It's not just you can give these people anything to do. You also have to build a relationship with them. I've had a lot of my clients in my class for 3 years and 4 years. It's not that they need to be there. They just like the class because as a leader, I'm able to be compassionate. I'm able to be in their world and really to help them to understand what's going on and to know that they can do it themselves. I give them all these tools that they can do it themselves, and that's the priceless part of what I do.
Yeah, and I've never been a personal trainer or into that side of things, but I've been on training for fire departments in the military when I was in the military, as far as like skills and that sort of thing. So I definitely resonate with what you're talking about. And earlier you were talking about doing things safely and in certain ways and systematically. I think you can kind of take that and put it into any kind of training scenarios or skill development where you're, you have some kind of routine and some kind of strategy where you're trying to make sure you achieve the goal, but it's safe, and that, everybody's going to learn, master their objectives, whether that be physical training or mental training.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. And so you're online, you're mostly online, right?
Yeah, I do a few clients. I have a building that has a gym in it, so I still do training there. But most of my stuff is online because I teach classes 8 times a week, if you can believe it, 8 times. Okay, so I teach 2 classes a day because I got people from different parts of the country, and so I kind of get into their schedules too. So it's been I stay in shape. I take that much.
When you do the online classes, are you like on a screen, kind of like was that cycling thing?
We're just like we're here. If my classes are just on Zoom and I'm teaching it, yeah, absolutely.
All right, so it's kind of like a Peloton type, but you're doing physical training.
Yes, and yeah, exactly. Not as intense as Peloton, but and the thing is, they all have to keep their cameras on. Have to keep their cameras on. And one thing as the leader, one thing that I do is very important. I call their name. I'll say their name and I'll say, you're doing, hey, hang in there, you're doing a good job or what have you. And so they know that I'm watching. They cannot just sit there and not do, and they can't keep their cameras off because I need to see what they're doing. So that's where that relationship comes in between me and those people, me and the women that's on that screen. And it's quite fascinating as much as how close we've become just from me showing them that I really care and I understand.
Yeah, definitely. So you kind of pivoted into leadership there. So let's go back. Before you started this, you were a leader of people. Now you're still a leader of people, but now you're a leader of clients who are paying you to be their leader. Let's go back to before you started this. What was your leadership style when you had to lead people, in person?
Well, I used to work in printing and mailing. And when I was first put into a supervisory position, the company just said, "You the supervisor now." And I struggled tremendous. You know how that goes, right? They just throw you in there. And then after that, I started to take some classes. I started to, study Zig Ziglar, Tom Hopkins, Anthony Robbins. I mean, for years, I studied these particular leaders in their industries. And I started to do a lot of self-improvement. That's a must. You have to do self-improvement because you got to come with your best self. And so at night, I had my own shift at night. So I had to take care of this whole print shop with about 15 people. And my style is basically I'm hands-on. I'm going to do it so you can see that I'm working just as hard as you. I was very supportive if you needed something. And one thing I am top on is I'm training you to be the best. So I'm training them to do that job because remember how I was just thrown into leadership. I don't give anyone anything that I want them to succeed. And I think another thing that I do as a leader when I was in the printing and mailing, I didn't want the people just to stay in my division. I'm like, how else can I what other skills do you need to go to another department? Because there was like 6 different departments there. Like, come on, let's go around. And so I didn't care if I lost my best person because I still was going to bring everybody up. I mean, to me, that is the power of what I do is I want you to be your best self. And I really strive to make sure they get that. They got all the training they need.
Definitely. Another thing you said about finding your own training. A lot of people think, oh, well, when I get promoted, I'm going to get training. Not always. That doesn't happen. Especially if you're at a small company. Small companies are going to take a chance on you. If you've been there, they're going to obviously try to promote from within, but they usually are lacking in frontline training for supervisors and managers. So that's another reason we made this podcast is for, listeners can listen to people like you and see the things that you had to go through. And those were good examples. Zig Ziglar and Anthony Robbins are very good examples of, people you can reach out. They have things they have going, books and that sort of thing. And we have some tools too that people can use, but those are all good ways to self coach yourself to learn things and get out there and, be the best leader you can. I think my first time in a leadership role, I had maybe 5 people. Then I went to 8, then 10, and then my biggest is 41. So, you just learn and you take those, use those tools that you have and always be continuously learning, either through self-guided training, which I think everybody should just always be self-learning. I've got books over here on my desk for,
exactly
things, and then also don't pigeonhole yourself, get out there and learn things outside of what your key role is. Like you said, you were in mailing and printing and now you're in physical therapy, but sometimes you can go to educational things that are not directly in those niches and you'll get a broader understanding of things. So like I said, my full-time job's in healthcare facilities, and then I do Go Heroes is my volunteer job, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I've gone to like hotel maintenance, hotel facility meetings, even though I have nothing to do with hotels, but I learned, oh, well, they have similar things they're dealing with. And, I can kind of ping ideas off of them. So definitely you can learn from other people. And I don't say that you have to always do things that are paid. There's a lot of free resources out there too. I think YouTube's a great one. These podcasts like this one are great. And things that you can learn are out there.
I think also is what you were just talking about is the more you go out there and you try other things, you become what they call indispensable in your business, in your company. And so for them to have me, I was like the mechanic. I was a mechanic. I fixed all their machines. I did all that. I was under high pressure all the time. I did printing, I did the mailing, I did the stitching, I did a little bit of everything. That way, whenever somebody wasn't there, you could always fit in. So it's very important for you to call it indispensable for your job. So when layoffs come, you know that usually your job is secure. So that's one thing I always be sure that I was doing. And that's why I did my people that way is I made sure they was well-rounded, so if they had any cuts, they wasn't going to come out to my people.
Yeah, and you got to be well-rounded nowadays. People, they don't want, there are some areas where you want subject matter experts, but now you kind of have to be a Swiss Army knife. You got to know a little bit about everything. If you look at job descriptions nowadays, it's like you must have these 20 things, or and then you always have that last bullet item that says other duties as required. And so that's when your supervisor or your manager may come and say, hey, I need you to do this. And you're gonna be like, I've never done this before. Let me YouTube it real quick.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Well, Renee, anything we're missing, and how people can get a hold of you?
For me, I am in the health and wellness industry. And what I do is I help men and women, a lot of military, because a lot of military, especially the women, used to come to my classes because they had knee problems from running in boots. Okay, put that out there. But I help the men and women to reduce their knee pain so they can avoid the surgery and the drugs and the shots. And because I've become an inventor, I invented a knee pain reduction strap that I can give and ship it out right now. It's on Amazon, it's on eBay, that you can use to help you to start to get out of pain. I am at healmyknees.com, and you can come on that site, leave me a message, and I'll get back to you within 24 hours.
Good deal. Yeah. I'm actually working on something right now. I might have to reach out to you about my inventions. So.
Well, let me just share this, because I know the military and people don't think of it this way. A lot of times your joint problems, your hips, your back, your knees, or what have you, chronic, when it comes chronic, it usually is that the problem is in your ankles. It's in your ankles, your calves, and your shins. But no one works there. No one goes into that area to work on that. And that's why I created my strap, because in this strap, you have to put it around your ankle. So what it does, it automatically forces you to use your ankle to get your ankle to move properly. It does 7 other stretches also, but you have to go after the ankles. And that's the only way that I can get people out of pain. If we can just get to that place, man, it would be a lot less joint problems. And I can almost guarantee that.
I fortunately do not have joint problems right now, but hopefully I don't get those.
Well, you have hip problems, you got hips, you got back problem. Those are your joints. Your shoulders, your hips, your back, your knees, your ankles. That's your joints. And so
good deal. Well, Renee, we'll put all that links in the show notes below. And so everybody check out the links below, and we'll link directly to your strap. And thanks for coming on the show.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Jason, for having me.
Hey, everybody. This episode of the Leadership Loading Podcast was brought to you by Go Heroes Inc., goheroes.org. If you'd like to be a sponsor, go ahead and check out our website or email us, and we'll get you all the information you need.
There are thousands of leadership and management podcasts to choose from. We're glad you chose the Leadership Loading Podcast, a Go Heroes production. If you'd like to support Go Heroes Inc., visit www.goheroes.org. And with that, it's time to wrap up today's show. Thank you so much for listening. We sincerely hope you liked it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your family and friends. Let's all grow together. Thanks for listening to the Leadership Loading Podcast. Leadership inspired.